On Knicks Nation, we are back for another draft session. We are in the building. We're going to do a live mock draft today. I'm excited. You guys saw me, do my little, draft stuff on the live show. But today I got a special guest with me, and we're going to be doing back and forth first round mock draft and give some of our, predictions for some in the second round with everything. But you've seen him before. He's all over the feed. He's in draft mode as always. My guy Kris P. You seen him on Knicks Film School as always. Kris, what's going on, my guy?
How we doing? Thanks so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it. It's a busy time of year. It's the best time of year for us. Draft content, draft coverage. Um, at this point, though, I'm very ready to just see who takes who. So I'm excited to do a mock draft between the two of us, and I'm just as excited to see this draft over the next 2 days. Um, listen, this is a fun draft class, and I don't care what anyone says. I think it's a fun draft class to analyze. I think every draft class is fun, but that's besides the point. So thanks so much for having me on, my man.
No, man, I've been wanting you, on my show, so we're finally here to talk. I know you do a lot of draft stuff, but let me get your and you mentioned before about this draft, and there's a lot of negativity with this draft class, and people are like, oh, there's no blue chippers, there's no this, it's boring and all that. What's your feeling on that? Because like I said, I'm just a draft junkie, so it doesn't matter what type of draft it is, I'm going to be into it. But for you, what's your thoughts on this class and the kind of the negative feeling it's getting?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say again, same here. As a draft junkie, I'm going to be a fan of any draft class because it's fun to analyze no matter what. But that said, I do think this draft class is getting underrated. Listen, this is not your Hollywood blockbuster, Tom Hanks, Ryan Reynolds, Margot Robbie kind of movie where you've got the big stars and everyone's lining up to see them, right? This is more of a full cast of B tier celebrities, B list actors and actresses. But listen, man, that cast is deep, right? So there's no Gandolfini, there's no Falco, but we've got Artie Bucos and Silvios and Paulies all up and down the cast, man. So I would say for the 2024 NBA draft, it is underrated. The reason being, no, there is not a Paolo, there is not a Zion, there is not a Wemby, there's not a Ja Morant, there's not a Scoot Henderson. No matter whether the players pan out or not, there's not someone in this draft class that people are expecting to pan out the way they expected those prospects to pan out. But that said, the Denny Avdias, the Devin Vassell's, the Cole Anthony's, you look at drafts where they had players like Quickly and McDaniels going in the 20s and 30s and 40s. That and Bane that year too. That's what this is
Super
to me,
underrated,
man.
Bane, right? People, I remember. I'm sure you know Mavs draft. I remember when he came on my show, was like, "Yo, Desmond Bane, Desmond Bane, Desmond Bane." He's been slept on, and look at him now.
I had Maxey at 8 that year and Bane at 12 on my big board, and they went 21 and 30, and they ended up being huge value picks, making more money in their next contract than I'll touch in my lifetime. Listen, this draft is deep with contributors. I don't think you're going to see guys in this draft picked in the 30s and 40s getting $250 million deals on their second contract. But I do think you're going to see like 20 guys from this draft class have 10 plus year careers, at least 20 guys. So deep with contributors, even if the star power isn't really there.
Let me ask you something. 2020, it was when I started really looking into the draft. What's for you? What's been the biggest, improvement as far as evaluation for you? For me, I learned a lot from that 2020 class because we also remember we had forever to evaluate that. So sometimes I know I was doing a lot of over eval. So for you, what's been the biggest lesson you learned from 2020 to now 2024?
Oh, that's a great question because for me, 2020 is when I was covering the draft for Sports Illustrated. So I went deep diving on a lot of those prospects. I had James Wiseman outside of my lottery. I had Tyrese Halliburton outside of my lottery. I had Emmanuel Quickly in the first round. I didn't have Jaden McDaniels in the first round. So you know, you have your hits, you have your misses. I think what I learned from the 2020 draft specifically was, and I'm not saying this to be like a conspiracy theorist and be like, oh, you know, like the draft Twitter hive mind, whatever is sabotaging draft talk. Nah, I just like, what I learned was to lean into your own evaluations and lean into your own
Mm-hmm.
opinions. Don't be afraid to be different, because every year there's someone that just everyone is wrong about. Like, for example, um, I think people are really split on Zach Edey. I think half the evaluators out there think he's a sleeping giant, no pun intended, that will return top 10 pick value for this draft, particularly that should be a top 20 pick in any draft. And then you have people saying he's not going to last in the NBA because he's too slow. Like, I think just don't pick a side. Just do you. Just be yourself.
100%.
And don't feel like, oh, I had Bub Carrington at 22, but then Sam Vecini, who's really good and smart at this stuff, had him in the lottery in his top 12. So maybe I'll just put him at like 16, somewhere in the middle. Like, when you start half-assing evaluations, you're gonna get half-ass results. Like, don't go look at mock drafts and big boards of these big time draft analysts and start changing yours based off of theirs. Just watch a game that they play, that a player plays, and think, if you want to overreact to one highlight, go ahead and do it. But at least it was something you saw with your own eyeballs, and you're not just, you know, like aggregating, right? Like we see on NBA Twitter a lot of times, say a Knicks reporter puts out a report and says, you know, the Knicks have 2 picks in the upcoming draft. I bet they want to trade one or both of them for an impact player. And a Bulls reporter says Alex Caruso is someone the Knicks called about. You might get some aggregation page going out right now and saying the Knicks offered the 24th and 25th pick for Alex Caruso. No one ever said that. They put that together on their own and treated it like fact. I feel like that happens a lot with draft evaluations. Like, you'll see Wasserman say one thing about a player and have him 31, and you'll see Vecini say another thing about a player and have him 11, and you'll see, you know, Chris LeBron have him 28 and Kris Pursiainen have him 14, and you'll be like, all right, people are all over the place on this guy. I'm just going to put him at like 21, somewhere in the middle. Just like, go watch him. If you think he's top 4, he's top 4 to you. Like, you're not getting paid for this. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm not going to lose my job if I have someone going in the top 5 of my board that ends up not being a lottery caliber player. Like, just do you.
Kris, you're 100%. Listen, I had Killian Hayes number 1 that year. You know,
I loved him.
And like I said, I watched him, and everything I saw, I was like, he's gonna be like a hybrid D'Angelo Russell. And I went with my gut. Now I was wrong. You know, I was way off. You know, but I had like Quickly higher on my board than most people. So it's just something you just gotta trust your gut. You just gotta trust your gut. And like I said, we so focused on, you know, all the big time draft dudes, and we're like, oh man, like you mentioned, one guy has one guy, you know, top 15, the other guy has a 31, and you're like, oh man, so should I just put him in the middle? Nah, if you think he's top 50, if you think he's top 5, go for it. It's like with Zach Edey, like you mentioned. There's some people who have him bottom first round, but there's some people I see have him top 10. Just go with your gut. If you watched enough games him at Purdue and you feel comfortable with him at being top 10, then have him top 10. So I think some people we go a little too crazy. You know, I know I've done that first year. I did it too much, and that's one of my biggest things that I've learned. Just trust your gut.
I have like 2 friends, I think, that have Edey number 1. Like,
ooh,
that's
okay.
just, but like, good for them, right? Because if he hits, you know what I mean? Like, it's not about sitting back and saying, oh, I was right about this guy. To me, it's all about, who are you wrong about? Why were you wrong about them? And how can you learn from that going forward? Because, you know, in 2020, I was 18 years old. I had Desmond Bane in the lottery for a couple different reasons, and maybe none of those were like a correct way. Like, I could have been I could have been accidentally right. People are accidentally right all the time. right? Like someone can go out right now and say, sources tell me OG Anunoby is going to re-sign with the Knicks, and they have no idea. But when he does, they can say, look, I was right. So to me, like the draft is kind of similar. Like I just think social media and this era of sports coverage in general, it's really easy to pretend to be an expert. And I feel like something I'm proud that I do is I never say I'm an expert. I never tell anyone I'm an expert.
100%.
It's just about, I like watching these games and watching the tape. I like talking to people who I know watch way more than me and just trying to represent Knicks fans and say, try to figure out things that Knicks fans will want to know.
100%. 100%. So we know the Knicks have 2 picks in the first round, 24, 25. Before we get into this mock draft, give me a few names that you really like and intrigued that could possibly be that 24 and 25 for you.
I'm going to go, could possibly see. I think Edey and Kolek are both gone by 24, but Zach Edey, center from Purdue, 7'4", Tyler Kolek, point guard from Marquette, 6'1". Those are 2 names that I think the Knicks would be really happy to or should be really happy to wind up with. Who else? I want to say
Cole. I just did a piece on Kolek, and I think he's perfect for the Knicks. Perfect as a backup point guard. And that's something we need. And because he brings playmaking, led the country in assists. He's tough on defense. Just a smart player. That's something we really need, a creative playmaker off the bench, especially those non-Brunson minutes. It could be a little rough, so I think Kolek would be, but I'm hearing that he's rising. At one point, I thought second round. Then I'm like, oh, he's definitely going to be there for us at 24. Now I'm like, I talked to a scout. They're like, dude, he might not be there for you guys at 24 or 25. He might be going higher, because the playmaking is there. Yeah.
I would also say, 2 guys that maybe at the start of the draft cycle you would have thought would definitely be gone by 24. Now, not so sure. I would say Isaiah Collier and Kyle Filipowski. Collier, a point guard from USC. Filipowski, a forward big from Duke. I think either one of them, they would each represent a different kind of pick, right? Collier, you're trusting your coaching staff, development staff to wean him off the turnovers, to improve his vision on the court, and to improve his shooting. With Filipowski, you're hoping he either grows as a rim protector or then slims down and grows like movement wise so he could play the 4. But he's mostly ready to go. He's packaged and ready to go right now in terms of NBA skills. But if either of those guys are available at 24, I would look into them if I were New York. So I'd say you're hoping Edey, Kolek, Filipowski, Collier, and one more name I'll throw out would be Tristan da Silva if he makes it there. Just a plug and play type of guy, very smart player. Sam Vecini just put out a tape breakdown with him, and
those are great. Those are great.
He said in that he was like, not every you don't have to score for your cut to be a good, helpful cut for your team. 100%. And that to me sounds exactly like the kind of player that could come in even as a rookie and could earn the trust of Tom Thibodeau. So those are 5 names I'll say I'm hoping are on the clock when the Knicks are picking at 24. If they stay there, or in the case of Edey or Kolek, I would be completely fine if the Knicks wanted to trade up a couple of spots, maybe to the 21 range, to go and secure them before Phoenix could take someone like Kolek off the table.
What do you do? And the trading up thing, that's something the Knicks haven't done. They usually, it seems like when their guys are, if the guys are off their board, it seems like they either move back or they just say, hey, we're just going to wait till next year. And so do you think there's a situation where they could trade up to get a guy that they like? Because I don't see them using both picks. That's just me. I don't think they'll use both first round picks. So if there's one guy they really like and he's a couple spots up, like I said, in past, they seem like they punted or they just, they'll move down. Do you think there's a situation if they're the guy they like a Tristan da Silva, for instance? I think he's perfect for New York. He feels like a Tibbs guy too, right? And that's another thing that I wanted to talk to you before we get into the mock is the Tibbs guy thing. So do you think that a trade up would be, something that they would consider?
I could see the Knicks definitely considering a trade up. I think in this draft class, it's not going to cost as much as in other draft classes because there's less of a drop off. You're more playing the board than you are unlocking a new tier of talent, right? Like you trade up a couple spots in this draft class. It's not like you're going from sixth men contenders to all-star contenders. You're going from seventh guy in the rotation to sixth guy in the rotation, right? So like, um, hopefully one day they make it to that spot. They wouldn't be coming in the league ready to fit that role. I could see the Knicks taking 24 and 38 and trading up and then taking 25 and moving back and then trading one of the picks they get when they move back and just kicking it down the road. So like I can see the Knicks maneuvering around the board a little bit, turning 3 picks into 2 and instead of having 24, 25 and 38 picking at like 22, 32 and getting like a protected 2026 first out of it. You know, they love moving up and down the board. If you remember the year that they landed Toppin and quickly, they had, I think it was something like 28 and 33. And
Yeah.
they
And
moved
they
for
packaged it.
they got to 23 and then moved back from 23 to 25. Like they're funny, man, and they want to squeeze value. But the other side of it is the Knicks are good right now. I think that's been the most important thing I try to remind people when they're guessing what the Knicks will do in this draft cycle. So the Knicks are good right now. And because of that, I could see them being more aggressive than in years past to try and get someone they really think can complete their rotation or be the perfect, first guy outside of the rotation that they turn to in case of injury. We know last season showed that that's something that they've got to be ready for.
100%, 100%. All right, Chris, let's get into the mock draft. All right, so we're going to do a one-round mock draft, and then after the first round, we're going to talk about some of the sleepers. I know the Knicks, like I said, the Knicks have the 38th pick, so we'll talk about potential guys falling in the second round for the New York Knicks. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to be odds. Chris is going to be evens. So that's how we're going to rock with this draft. So with the first pick, I even got the draft chime ready. Ready to go. With the first pick, we got the Atlanta Hawks win now team. So, but they don't have a pick next year. So I think a lot of that is a big factor in this. So I'm going to go with my number one player on the board, and that's Donovan Clingan. Going with the big man out of UConn.
Wow.
Going with Donovan Clingan. There's been some rumblings about this, and Sarr, it felt like Sarr was been the lock for a while, but it seemed like it's simmering down with that. And I don't think Clingan's going to be the pick. I think it's going to be Zachary Ricochet, but if I'm Atlanta, I'm going with Donovan Clingan. And then there's a bunch of they're in win now mode. I think he's the best. He's going to be a monster, defense. He's 7'2", 7 foot, whatever wingspan. He's crazy. He's going to be a defensive anchor, and at worst, he's a double guy and just a solid starter, But to me, his potential is 20 and 10 all-star level player. So I'm going to go Donovan Clingan with the first pick for Atlanta, and I think they're in win now mode. I think this helps them with that win now mode. Where Alex Sarr or Zachary Ricochet, those guys are still projects, and I think it's going to take a few years for them to get to where you think they want to be. I think Clingan's plug and play. That's your starter. And you make it rock. I know they might do some trades, but I think I'm going to go Donovan Clingan with the number one pick for the Atlanta Hawks.
Bro, okay. That's a great pick. I like that. I like going against the grain. Everyone says, oh, Sarr or Ricochet. I love going with option C, the third door. But you set me up nice, man. The Washington Wizards, Alex Sarr seems to want to go there over the Atlanta Hawks, declining to work out for Atlanta. Whole lot of factors in play here, but for me, my number one prospect on the board is Alexander Sarr. So for the Wizards, a team that needs talent, and listen, man, Clingan is my number 2. So you did not, if we're looking at my board, you did not do anything crazy by taking him number 1. I love him, but I have Alex Sarr number 1 myself. So I think he's the easy pick for me for the Washington Wizards at number 2.
Okay. It's not that I don't like Sarr, because I still have him as my top 4. It's just I question the floor a little bit. And if I'm one of these, if I'm in Atlanta with the first pick, I think I'd rather take the safer guy. But Sarr, I think the potential is there. The shot is the one thing that needs it, but it looks solid at times. It definitely looks solid, but the defense is could be all NBA. So he's there. He's going to be able to make an impact right away with the defense, and you're hoping that the offense, which is his biggest swing, comes along. And so, but there are good things I like about his shot. It's just we got to get it more consistent, but definitely a nice pick. And the Wizards need talent. He's a very talented, and if you hit with him, you could have something there. All right, we got the Houston Rockets. Houston Rockets at number 3. I think they definitely want a trade team for sure. But if we're gonna stay with the board, I'm going to go with Reed Shepherd out of Kentucky, the best shooter in the class. Underrated athlete, as you saw in the combine. He can shoot. He can handle the rock. Can play some defense too. But this shooting is. I've heard some people say he's one of the best shooters they've seen in a long time. And for Houston, they got a lot of young guys, but he fits perfect. They could use a shooter like that, especially with Fred VanVleet at the point. I think that fits perfect. He can plug and play type of guy and can make an impact. So I'm going to go with Reed Shepherd going to the Houston Rockets.
That's a good pick, man. The Rockets are trying to get good soon. They've got lots of talent. I think Tari Eason and Jabari Smith Jr. are going to be really, really good together next season. Shepherd, a nice compliment. If you see him as a Tyler Hero type, if you see him as someone who doesn't quite ever hit that star echelon, but knows what he's good at and can help you out there, a little playmaking, a lot of shooting. I like that pick for the Houston Rockets. At number 4, it's the San Antonio Spurs, right? And this is tough because at number 4 in the draft, you want to say, okay, this is a team that needs talent. I'm going to go best prospect available. But they have Victor Wembanyama on their team. And to me, that changes things a little bit in regards to how soon they want to be good. So like my thought right away, if at this spot in the draft is to go with, now the top 3 guys on my board are gone. So I want to go at number 4, but I can't because the player who's number 4 on my big board is someone who I think needs at least 2 seasons to grow a little bit and then could be one of the highest ceiling players in the draft. So that said, I'm going to reach here at number 4. I'm going to go with someone who I know can help the Spurs day one, who fits a positional need for them, who can go out there and defend his butt off. I'm taking Devin Carter out of Providence at number 4 overall.
Hey.
I have him very high on my board. So to me, this is not that big of a reach, but I know for most people out there, they're not expecting him to go until maybe the 8th or 9th pick. But give me Devin Carter for the Spurs right away because I think someone's going to fall to San Antonio when I pick again for them at number 8. That will allow me to really run wild with who I can get to take there because now you've got your impact guy. Go take your upside shot at 8.
Kris, I love it. I love it. He's top. I'm going to release my big board tonight, but he's top 7 for me. Top 6, I think top 6 for me. I love him. I love the pick. He has the bloodlines there. So, and he could do everything, man. He could do everything. He's just a really good player on both sides, can shoot, scored, athletic, crazy athletic. That if you're San Antonio, you can't go wrong with that. I like to pick Devin Carter, Providence kid. He's, like I said, very good. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes here. All right. So we got Devin Carter off the board. We got with the 5th pick. I got to find Devin Carter on my thing. We got Devin Carter off the board. The Detroit Pistons, man, I feel bad for them. 60 all them losses just to get the 5th pick again. But
unreal.
Team, it's crazy, right, Kris? Like,
did you see today's report? Did you see today's rumor?
No.
All right. The rumor, there were 2 rumors that came out that are connected. One rumor is they're looking into trading for Tim Hardaway Jr. And the other part of that rumor is that Quentin Grimes is someone who has been discussed as potentially going to Dallas in that kind of trade.
Okay. God bless their hearts. I pray for all my Detroit Pistons fans. I have a lot of them.
Jeez.
But with the 5th pick, I think they take a shot and take take a wing here, a talented wing, and I don't think Zachary Richey is gonna fall further than this. So I'm gonna take Zachary Richey here.
Okay.
6'8" wing. I like what he can do. Off the dribble, and there's some things that he needs to work on. Defensively, but I think he's someone. His swing thing is the shooting needs to improve. Kind of inconsistent, but I think at this point, at 5, you take him here. So I'm gonna go Zachary Richey with the 5th pick to the Detroit Pistons, who just need talent. So you just take a shot on him and see if it hits or not. All
Absolutely.
right, we got the Hornets on the clock.
Hornets on the clock, and this is going to be the easiest pick for me of this mock draft. The number 4 prospect on my board, I passed on him as the San Antonio Spurs because I went for a little bit more of a win now kind of player, just because I think the Spurs are going to be active in the trade market and come a year or two are going to be ready to try and make those playoffs with Wembanyama leading the ship. But there's one prospect in this draft class who is on the board right now, who's my number 4 prospect on my board, who fits perfectly between LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. If you haven't guessed already, the second player from the University of Connecticut to come off the board, it's Stephon Castle. You take a look at his game, man. If you don't buy him as a shooter at all, he should still probably be in your lottery in this draft class. If you do buy him as a shooter, I could see anyone having him, like number 2. So for me, I have him number 4. I guess that kind of reveals where I am on his shooting. I don't buy it 100%, but I do think it'll improve as a fit between Ball and Miller. Castle can do it all. He can be your gritty gutter guy, go out there, win you the margins, go out and clean those gutters on the court and go grab rebounds from the guard spot, good passing, defensive ability. He can be used in a shutdown role. He can be used off the ball to patrol passing lanes. He's super versatile. I think Charlotte would love to grab him at number 6. So that's an easy one for me.
I love it. I got Castle as my number 2 prospect.
See, I said up to as high as number 2. There you go.
He's my number 2 guy. I know people are skeptical about the shooting, and even if you go back to high school, you saw little glimpses, but I trust the shooting. I trust that he could be a point guard. He didn't need to be the point guard at UConn because they had Tristan Newton, they had Cam Spencer, Carrot, but they had a bunch of guys that can handle the rock, and he was the 4th, 5th, 6th option at times. But I trust that long term that he can be that guy. So I love the pick. He's my number 2 guy. So that's a great pick. You put him with him and LaMelo. I think that's a great backcourt for the future. All right. So we got the Portland Trailblazers on the clock. I'm going to go with maybe another deadly shooter. I'm going to go with Dalton Connect here.
Wow. Okay.
Taking Dalton Connect with this pick, can shoot off the catch, off the dribble, this man can do everything with the ball in his hand. And the fact that he was able to level up, go to Tennessee and essentially dominate in the SEC, to me shows that, and obviously he's not going to have the ball in his hand that much in Portland, but I think he's going to be able to adapt to be that kind of off ball, not essentially just on the corner, but he's going to be able to do a lot of damage on the perimeter, because he's a deadly shooter. So I think it's perfect. That's exactly what a Scoot Henderson needs, so he could drive and kick. That's going to help his game out a lot. And we saw the progression he saw toward the end of the season with Scoot, and you add a Dalton Connect to that. I think that helps this team so much more. So I'm going to go with Dalton Connect going to the Portland Trailblazers.
Heard you. I think now this sets me up nicely. I said at number 4 for the Spurs because I get to draft for them twice, just how it worked out with the evens and odds. Number 4, I went a little more win now with Devin Carter, someone who can come in, help them from day one, and also I think is a little underrated in regards to his perceived upside as a draft pick. But now really at 8, I can swing for the fences, try to hit a home run. I am going to take a wing who's a little raw right now, but I think can play winning basketball. And as his skills continue to grow, as he continues to fill out his frame the way his brother did, can really become an impact player for San Antonio. I'm going to go with Cody Williams out of the University of Colorado. And listen, he is probably in trouble from day one because if people expect him to be as good as his brother, it's just unfair to him. But it is worth mentioning that when you see the two of them in pictures together, Jalen looks like he's my height, and that guy's 6'5". So Cody's big. He's raw, but skilled in certain regards, and then talented in the regards that he's not so skilled, and yet his feel for the game is just really high. And I think he'd be a great pick. I'm imagining, Devin Carter, Cody Williams, Victor Wembanyama being the three young players that the Spurs really hang their hat on. You add a Keldon Johnson, developed Malachi Branham into the mix. You still have Blake Wesley as an upside shot off the bench too. Like, to me, I think that would send the Spurs in the right direction. So Spurs fans, if you're watching or listening, I hope I did right by you with 2 picks in the top 8. But that said, Cody Williams.
Cody Williams. I trust the bloodlines too, man. I love bloodline picks. So I like the Cody Williams pick. I know at one point maybe projected to be like the number 1 pick, or definitely a top 2 to 3 pick, but I think he's still going to be a really good player, and I trust his long-term development. I know people worry about his aggression. I'm not really worried about that. I think at the next level, he's going to show that. So that's a good pick. All right. We got the Memphis Grizzlies at number 9. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with Zach Edey.
Wow.
We're going Zach Edey.
Wow.
We are going Zach Edey with this pick. They were a team that
I was really targeting him for OKC at 12. Damn.
Yeah, and that's why we're going to see some shaking, Chris. We're going to see some shaking in this draft because people, I think, isn't it crazy, Chris? Like this time last year, like when he was going into the like he put, he was doing the combine stuff and all that. Like he was like, he's probably a 2nd round pick. He might not even get drafted. And then towards the season started, and you were still like, we don't know. And then the season happened, and it's like, yeah, he might be. And then after the everything had combine, and it's like, yeah, he might not just be a 1st round pick. He might be a lottery pick. So I think Memphis, they need a big desperately. If he's a great screener, that's just going to help John Morant so much. He's 7'4". He's going to intimidate even in the NBA. He did it in college where he just guards wouldn't even bother. So I like this pick. I think it's worth a shot too. I think it's worth a shot to take it. If this is the draft to take a shot, if there's a year to take a shot on players, it's this draft. So I think Zach Edey at 9. I would do it. I would do it if I was them.
I like it. Ballsy. I robbed you of reuniting father and son. They could have had their own version of Rick and Jalen, with Anthony Carter being a staff member with the Grizzlies, but Devin was off the board. So Edey, I love that pick. And I think it says something also a little bit about Brandon Clark, who was a draft Twitter darling, and people really loved Clark. I really love Brandon Clark, and he's kind of fallen off the map a little bit these last couple years. So there is a perceived need at center for the Grizzlies. But I got to say, at number 10, the Utah Jazz, a team, a lot of motion, a lot of off-ball movement for them. It's a perfect spot for a prospect who I think has a super high motor, who I know from watching him play in a role that was bigger than a role he should have had with the G League Ignite, that he can handle having the ball in his hands, but he will be best off if his coach is getting him going in motion, off-ball movement, redirection, you name it. So for the Utah Jazz, they need talent. They need guys that can fit around Lauri Markkanen and the rest of their strong players. And I am going to say that Ron Holland would be the best pick for them right here. So Ron Holland, number 10 overall, he is the number 8 prospect on my board. But 2 guys went that I had a little after Holland. So that frees up Holland to go here at number 10 overall. And for me, it's a great pick because with Will Hardy and the Utah Jazz's scheme, he fits great. And also just where the Jazz are as a franchise, they can take these upside swings right now, and they kind of need to. I think he's a fit there as well.
I love it. He's my 5th ranked prospect. I know people are not buying the shot, but I saw a lot of, I love his in-between game. He's a tremendous athlete, great slasher. I think that the shot can improve. The G League it was kind of a mess this year, Chris. It was a mess. So like we have to factor that too, that it was just all over the place. You had a bunch of non-shooters with each other. It's just, it was just a lot going on, and obviously the G League the Ignite is no longer even existent. So, but Ron Holland, I mean, he's another guy that maybe number one pick coming this year, number one rated high school player coming out. Was supposed to go to Texas. You know, the whole Chris Beard situation. He wound up going to G League. I like him. He's top 5 for me, so I think it's a great pick. So, and another upside pick that they're going to get. You know, Keontae George last year they took him. Where did they take Keontae? They took him pretty. You know, I'm not as he was supposed to go higher, and he wound up being a really good pick for them. So I like the pick.
He went at 16, and I had him inside my top 10. So I thought that was a great pick.
Yeah, I thought that's a steal. So the Jazz get another potential great player, you know, this late. So we got the Chicago Bulls on the clock here. I'm taking Rob Dillingham with this pick. I think I know they got Josh Giddey. I know they just got Josh Giddey, but this is a guy who is an absolute bucket. He is an absolute pure bucket, fast with the ball in his hand, can score, can shoot, score, get to the buck. I know people worry about with his weight and all that, but and the defense is a concern. That is a major concern. But I buy him as a pure bucket scorer. He's, I know they got Kobe White. That could be a dynamic. I mean, they might give up a lot of points, but they're going to be able to score some. So I'm going to go with Rob Dillingham. I don't think you could have him fall any further. So I'm going to go Rob Dillingham here to the Chicago Bulls.
This is a tough one now at number 12 for Oklahoma City. There were a couple of guards I would have really have liked to have taken here, but they just acquired Alex Caruso in that trade you were talking about with Josh Giddey involved. So, now for OKC at 12, it's really about taking someone who fits the bill of the kind of players they're interested in, but also somebody who I guess doesn't overload them on guards, right? So like a couple of guys I was looking at aren't really as great of fits here, just because again they have so many guards. And now with Case and Wallace, who they took last year, who I really liked, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, of course, everyone knows that, but Alex Caruso added to that guard room. It's a little too much action in the guard room for me. So a couple of guys I would love to have taken for OKC, I have to pass on. That said, there's a pick here that I think is a little weird. I'm not sure if they'd make it in real life, but at this point in the draft, with where they are as a franchise, they're good right now, but they're young, they can afford to try and be better. I'm going to do it, and that's going to be Matas Buzelis, from the G League Ignite as well. Again, a mess of a season, like you said, for them, but Buzelis has some interesting skills that you can't really teach someone of his size. He's just going to come in ready with those. Yes, he only has one really great shooting season under his belt, and it came at Sunrise in high school, but I don't know that they need him to be a superstar shooter. So for me, I think he's an upside shot for them. I do think that he can pan out and be a 4 with Chet Holmgren at the 5. The problem there is you have the skinniest front court in the league. So maybe Matas Buzelis would be best served coming off the bench for them in a feature scorer role of some kind. But I think OKC is a team where he could work even if he doesn't pan out as a top end shooter. So going to go with Buzelis at number 12.
Yeah. I like it because this is the perfect spot for him for his development. Like I said, if he goes to if I put him Chicago, it's like maybe they were expecting him to be, immediate impact right away. But if he goes to OKC, he's going to be able to develop, come off the bench, it's like play some 4, and he doesn't have to worry about the shot. It can develop. So I like him coming here. That's where I've been a lot of mocks with Buzelis here. So I like the pick a lot. So we got that. We got the Sacramento Kings on the clock. Man, they're tough. There's one guy I had in particular for Sacramento, but now that that they re-signed Monk, I don't know if this fits. So they're tough. They're tough to figure out. And I don't know if they would take a chance on an upside guy. So I'm gonna go. Man, you know what? I like him. He's a great shooter. I'm gonna go with Jared McCain. We go
Okay.
Jared McCain.
Okay.
He's one of the better shooters in this class. You know, I'm a Duke fan. I watched a lot of his games this year. Each game just got better and better, and he's so confident. You know, he has range, and you know, the playmaking's not there, but you know what? They just light it up, and he get able to shoot and all that. So I like that for him. I'm gonna go with Jared McCain going to the set. And there's uncertainty with De'Aaron Fox potentially. So you want to have some type of safety net if the next few years, if you know Fox is somehow traded. So I'm gonna go with Jared McCain. To me, he's one of the better shooters in this class. So Jared McCain is the pick.
I like it. I have a lottery grade on him in this draft class, at least. Not normally, I wouldn't, but they were interested in Caruso. Someone from the Bulls just reported. So, you know, they're not afraid to add another guard. I like that pick for them. Like you said, a Fox safety net. He serves that purpose well. At number 14, it's the Portland Trailblazers. Again, you took Dalton Connect for them at 7, more of a win now kind of pick. So here, I think we can afford to go with a little upside for a Portland team that does need talent. It's a tough pick given that they have Scoot Henderson, but something about the talent here, it's just too much to pass up on. I'm going to go with Nikola Topic. And I think he's someone who, especially if the shot comes along, could share the court with Scoot Henderson. But if not, he'd be an amazing backup to Scoot Henderson. And at this point in this draft class, that's kind of what you're drafting for. So for me, I'm not afraid to go Topic. I think he's the best prospect available. And, you know, I'm not afraid to just say, all right, let's go with this guy because Portland needs talent. I mean, there are some other players you could have gone with at this point that you'd say, okay, you know, that's a better fit on the court, but Portland just needs talent. So you're going to look past the partial ACL tear and just look at the talent on the board, go with the number 1.
How much do you worry about that? The ACL?
Over the course of his career, I don't think it should be a worry at all. I mean, if you're a win now team, and you trade up for a pick or something, obviously you don't take him if you're looking for someone to contribute year 1. But again, this is, like you said earlier, this is the draft class to take a shot.
Yep. And if this was 10, 15 years ago, I would probably be like, yeah, he's probably dropping to the second round. But this is, you know, with advanced medicine, he should be fine. You know, so you take a redshirt year for him. But he's someone that's an incredible passer, great in pick and roll, you know, so he's worth it. You know, the ACL, I think he'll be fine. We're seeing guys come back from ACLs like nothing anymore. So I like that pick with Topic. All right, Miami Heat with the 15th pick. Man, there's a few guys I like for Miami. They can go a few ways. I don't think they take, you know, a risk on a young guy, but I'm gonna go with this guy. I'm going with Bub Carrington. Going with Bub. Another guy who has a great in-between game that I love so much. The handles improved, defense solid. He's someone that I would love, you know, to be, you know, a New York Knick. I've mocked him so many times, but I don't think that happens. I think he's gone before.
He'll be gone.
So he'll be gone. So going to go with Bub Carrington going to the Miami Heat. I think my Heat fans will like that pick a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's around where he'll go in the draft, if not earlier. He's really good. That pick and roll adeptness that he shows is really strong. His size is great. I like that a lot. Miami, a team that, you know, maybe they're looking towards a bit of a rebuild. We don't know how the Jimmy Butler situation is going to play out. That said, at number 16, a team that's definitely not rebuilding. It's the Philadelphia 76ers. And for them at this point, I'm really not sure if they're keeping this pick. And if they are, who it is that they are looking into, right? Because I don't know if they're trading this, if they're going to be drafting for another team. I'm just going to pretend they're holding on to this pick. Whoever they take here is someone that is going to try and make a rotation spot for them. Man, the best player available on my board, funnily enough, would be the 15th player on my board. So I think this mock draft has gone pretty true to my board so far, just in terms of the groupings of guys. I'm going to go for Philadelphia with Kyle Filipowski, especially because they're projected to lose Tobias Harris. I think
Mhm.
Filipowski is someone who fits a little bit more of that win now mold than some of the upside shots I've seen people mocking for them. Like Isaiah Collier was really tempting here. Um, but Flip, I think, is someone that Philly would like to have that can fill a need for them. Um, Again, maybe a little clunky with Paul Reed, with Joel Embiid already on the roster, but he would give them a different kind of look, a small ball look at the 5 to
Mhm.
throw at teams. And I guess he's not small himself. It would just be more of a 5-out look.
Yeah.
But I think, it's a copycat league, and the Sixers just saw a team in their division win the finals with 5-out basketball. So I'm going to go with Flip for them at number 16.
I like it. I like Flip a lot. I think he can. The shooting splits don't show it, but I think he can definitely be a better shooter than we saw in college. So I like the pick with Flip. So we have who's next? Oh, the Lakers. They're gonna take Bronny here, right? This is the pick. Bronny James. No, no, no. We're not that silly. We're not going that crazy. Maybe in the second round, but but with this,
55.
yeah, with this pick, I'm going to go. This is tough. I was thinking of the one guy, but I know they drafted Coach Fashino last year. You know what? Let's give him Jacoby Walter.
Okay.
Another guy, another guy, solid shooter. I feel like he could fit nice with next to LeBron. So I'm going to go with Jacoby Walter. He was another guy that potentially was a top 5 to 10 pick. Fell a little bit, but we're going to go with Jacoby Walter with this pick. All right, Chris. I know we only got you for 10 more minutes, so let's see if we can get a little quick so we can get to these Knicks picks that
I
people
hear
want to
you.
hear about. So we got
Number
Orlando on the clock.
18, the Orlando Magic on the clock. This to me is a team that, showed a lot of growth last season and showed they can be good, but are not a top flight team right now. I think they should be looking to try and get the best players they can. We know Markelle Fultz might not last on this team forever.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a great spot for Isaiah Collier at number 18. So at a USC, the Magic go with Isaiah Collier. He's a guard who's built like a football player, can pressure
Yes.
the rim, can kick out. He's turnover prone. They're going to need to coach him up. Maybe he spends some time at, what is it, the Osceola Magic, the G League team.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, I think this is the best talent swing here, and the Magic are not a finished product. They don't need to go take a Tristan Da Silva or somebody who would be like the best player available from day one, or a Tyler Kolek or Baylor Shireman. So
Yep, 100%.
I'm going to go with Isaiah Collier for them at 18.
I like it. I like it. High upside too. A lot of high upside. He's a bull, can be able to get to the rim. And with their uncertainty with a lot of their point guards right now, I think he's someone that, could be their guy in a few years. So I like the pick. All right. Toronto Raptors on the clock. It's Tyler Kolek. They need a point guard. Tyler Kolek fits it. Led the country in assists. Tremendous playmaker. Can shoot off the catch, shoot off the dribble, can do everything you want. Defense is a little suspect, but whatever. They're in rebuild mode. I think he's a perfect plug and play type of player. So I'm going to go with Tyler Kolek with this pick. All right. Cleveland Cavaliers on the clock.
Love it. Cleveland, number 20 overall. This is an interesting spot. I'm a little torn here. There's some different names I'd like to throw Cleveland's way, but this is a team that's hoping to retain Donovan Mitchell, that is not looking for upside shots here. They're looking for someone who can just come in and help. So because of that, I do think, man, I'm tempted to go with this one big man for them, but he's just raw. So let me go Tristan Da Silva for the Cleveland Cavaliers. We're gonna go with TDS. He's a wing. He can cut like hell. He can come in, shoot the open three, just play smart off-ball basketball. We know they have a lot of on-ball guys, Garland, Mitchell, even Mobley. They want the ball in his hands more. So let's go with someone who can help them off the ball in kind of a different way than Max Strus does.
Mm-hmm. And I know maybe some Knicks fans are a little upset that one of our targets is off the board here. So, but he's definitely would fit another need. They could use another more shooting. Like I said, a lot of on-ball guys could use another off-ball guy. So that's a good pick for them. All right. We got the Pelicans on the clock. I'm not a big fan of this guy. I think he's a huge, boomer bust type of guy, but I think here is a good spot for him. I'm going to go with Tijon Saloon out of France.
I was just thinking about when he's going to go in this mock. I thought it was interesting he was still on the board, but I
Chris,
just
there's going
didn't
to be
see him
guys
as
that are
a
going to
fit.
fall. I could see it. I could see
Yep.
it. I could see it.
Yep.
Like I said,
I like that
he
pick.
has the tools. I don't know. I'm not big, but I think at this point, I think he's good here. So I'll take a shot at Tijon Saloon here. All right, we got the Suns on the clock.
Number 22, the Phoenix Suns. Man, this is tough. There are certain guys I want to send their way, but again, this is a super win now team right now. Super duper win now. And I don't even know if they're going to keep this pick. So, knowing Phoenix, we'll say they keep it. We'll say they're going to go out and look for someone that can help them early on. And I can't help but think that Baylor Shireman fits
Yes.
what they look for when it comes to signing those guys on minimum contracts. Kolek, a huge fit for them here, but you just took him off the board at 19. So at 22, I'm going to go with Shireman. A bit of a reach when you look at a lot of mock drafts out there.
It's not Chris, not for me.
But I think
he's the guy. You see how excited I am? I just got really excited. I love it.
I think that's the guy for them here because he fits exactly what they look for out of the guys they take with these minimum contracts.
100%. He can rebound, he can shoot, he can pass. Just think a more athletic Joe Ingles. If you put in that, and like he's one of my favorite players in this class. So, and he's risen from back end second to being a solid first round pick. So I love the pick. So good one. All right, 23rd pick. We got the Milwaukee Bucks here. They need another guy that could get a bucket. And I'm gonna go Terrence Shannon here.
Exactly who came to mind when you said get a bucket.
I'm going. He could get it, but I know I don't worry about the age, especially when you get this late in the first round. Where age is not. I know he'll be 24 this season, but he can score at all three levels. I think he had the most 30-point games in college basketball this year. All the stuff, the off the court stuff is no longer an issue anymore. Take him here. I think they need that. All right, Chris. Got the first of the first round picks for the New York Knicks. The number with the 24th pick, Chris. We got
a lot of fans are going to like this one. A lot of fans are not going to like this one. I'm going chalk. A lot of people have projected him to the Knicks. I have heard personally the Knicks are certainly interested in him. We know they've had him in for a workout. We know they've gone to see him work out. I reported that they went to Long Island to go see him work out. This is Ryan Dunn, the University of Virginia.
Ryan Dunn.
Not a shooter, but somebody who is an insane defender. Assuming the Knicks retain OG Anunoby, this is somebody who long-term you're looking to have as a backup to slot into that similar kind of role. Just he's not the shooter that Anunoby is from the corners. And that makes him a lot less functional of a fit on the court. But long-term, I think the Knicks are high on him, high on his development potential. And so Ryan Dunn is going to be the first of two picks made by the Knicks. I love that we get to split them here, that neither one of us get to go ahead and take both players. So round us out, man. Let's see who else the Knicks get in the first round, Chris.
Chat, let us know. Do you like the Ryan Dunn pick at 24 by Chris? Let us know in the chat if you like this pick. This is a prospect I talked about on the last show. So let us know if you like. Give us a thumbs up, thumbs down if you like the Ryan Dunn pick by Chris. All right. With the other first round pick, the 25th pick, I'm going to take an upside pick. Is it really
center?
An upside pick? I'm going to take I'm thinking. I think I changed my mind last second. I'm going to go. I'm going to take the upside. I feel like let's go Khalil Ware. The uncertainty of our backup center position is up, is up in there. We don't know who's going to be the backup anymore. So I'm going to take the upside. I know he's been inconsistent, especially his first year at Oregon, inconsistencies, but I feel like if we bring him in, we groom him. I think this is someone who has high upside. And listen, I don't know if they're going to take two guys, that are that high upside guys. I think they'll definitely try to take one guy who's like, an older guy and the one upside guy if they keep both picks. But I don't know. I think I would do it. And I'm not a crazy Khalil Ware fan, but I don't know. My gut said take Khalil Ware. So I'm going to take Khalil Ware with the 25th pick. All right. 26th pick.
I like the Ware pick. You're definitely not expecting him to play early on, but he's someone who, if you're super high on him, you probably see all-star potential. I don't see Tom Thibodeau letting a big man that's that young get on the court at all. And and if he did make it onto the court, I don't think Thibodeau wants him taking threes, taking these side steps, step back threes, and mid-range shots. So
he's not a Tibbs guy at all, Chris. He's not a Tibbs guy, and I went into this thinking, all right, Tibbs guys, but I was like, you know what? Let's go anti-Tibbs. Maybe we could go with a little
front
upside.
office. The front office likes to challenge Thibodeau with the players they draft and try and get him to fit some different players into his scheme. So that's a really interesting pick. Number 26, the Washington Wizards. I already took Alex Sarr for them. I get to draft for them again here. And I think I'm going to go with someone who there's so many good centers on the board right now. It's so tempting to just grab one of them. But I'm going to go with Jalen Tyson. Because again, at this point in the draft, now for the Wizards especially, you're just trying to get someone who you think can turn into a really helpful big-time talent for you. So let me go Jalen Tyson. I think he could be the pick. If this were the real-life board, Washington might go out and take Tyson there. So maybe we'll see how. I don't know how realistic that is, but we'll see. And let's go with Tyson.
Let's go. That's a good pick. I like him. He's a top 15 player on my board. All right, I'm gonna go take. Yep, I'm gonna take with the Minnesota with 27th pick. We're gonna take Keyshawn George. I think there's some, he can be a big wing that can handle the ball. They kind of need somebody like that. Kind of that point guard type. He could be a point forward. So I'm gonna go with Keyshawn George with this pick.
Super interesting player. A lot of people have differing opinions on him, and I can't blame any of them. For the Denver Nuggets, we know what they like to do late in the first round. Take guys that, didn't look incredibly adept in college at being like day one super impact scorers. Like Peyton Watson averaged 1.8 points per game. This year, I think I'm going to go with a different kind of upside shot for them. So this time the Denver Nuggets are going to be hoping that health goes their way when it comes to this pick. I'm going to send Kevin McCullough to the Denver Nuggets.
I like it.
And he can fit, different kinds of roles for them. I'm not saying if this KCP signs elsewhere, say in Philadelphia, that McCullough would replace him, but that's kind of the mold you're looking for long term. McCullough is just not a shooter, but someone who can go win the margins, go rebound, play with a high motor, great defensive player. So give me Kevin McCullough Jr. for the Denver Nuggets. Another young player that can't shoot for them, but I do think in this scenario, it's a good pick, and there's some really, really good prospects left on the board here for these last two. I got to say that.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, so we got the Utah Jazz. You took Ron Holland for them, or did I take him?
I took Ron Holland for them at number 10.
Okay, I'm gonna go Johnny Furphy here. I don't think he falls this far, so I'm gonna go Johnny Furphy. I'm not crazy about Johnny Furphy. I think
I was gonna say I'm not a huge Furphy guy. I was okay he fell, but I did just think about how long he would make it.
Yeah, I'm just not big. I don't know if the shot's going to be consistent enough in the league, and so I'm not a big fan of him. But I think at this point, it's worth it here. All right, we got the defending champs, last pick in the first round.
All right, I'm really
the reigning champs, not the defending, the reigning champs.
I'm really tempted to go with someone here who I really think is the guy I definitely 100% have highest on my board, at number 20 overall on my board. But instead of going with Yves Missi, I'm going to go with someone else at that position, because the fact that he's here at 30, we know Boston just traded for Xavier Tillman, who is a really, really great defensive player. I'm going to send them a big man that I think can be a really great offensive player. We're going to go with Deron Holmes II out of the A10. Shout out Fordham to close out the first round. So we're going to go with Deron Holmes.
That is a good pick. a guy who can shoot it. And he came back this season after, testing the draft waters. Was probably gonna be like a second round pick. I think he's definitely gonna be a first round pick this year. But that's gonna conclude the first round. Kris, before you head on off, and appreciate you for joining us for this mock draft. Knicks fans, let us know how you feel about the 24th and 25th pick that me and Kris picked. Let us know how you feel about Ryan Dunn. I know there's some guys that are not crazy about Ryan Dunn because of the shooting, but let us know. And Khalil Ware, let us know. But is there anyone you were surprised that did not get selected?
Oh, I would go Yves Missi. I thought he might go in the first round. I'm not surprised that Jonathan Mogbo didn't get selected, but that's someone I thought, one of the two of us might have reached for at some point. Same with Pacome Dadier. I thought one of us might reach for him in the first round. But other than that, there's no one I'm surprised didn't get. Oh, you know what? Maybe Tyler Smith out of the G League Ignite. I'm surprised didn't get taken. I was thinking about him for Cleveland way earlier in the first round, but it didn't end up panning out there. And I like some of the other shots I took. If you want to say at 26 that I should have gone with Tyler Smith for the Wizards, I get it. But I already sent them a big man who's going to be playing a little 4 in Alex Sarr. So I thought, let's mix it up.
Yeah. Closing thoughts on this draft class. We got the draft is tomorrow and Thursday. Just give us some closing thoughts before we sign off.
Absolutely. I think it's underrated. I think this draft class is better than people think, not because it is so insanely amazing when it comes to star power, but I do think it's underrated because of how deep it is with potential long-term rotation guys on good teams or starters on bad teams that, a good team goes out and trades for to come off their bench. Like DeLon Wright, Bojan Bogdanovic are players that got picked up at the last trade deadline who were starting for a bad team that eventually came off the bench for a good team once they got picked up. Those are the kind of guys I can see littering this draft classes late first and early second round. So lots of value to be had.
That's the thing. I think there's going to be a lot of value. There's going to be some underrated players that we're not thinking about. I know we're so worried about the blue chippers up top, but this is a draft where you could be able to fill out your bench, and those guys can be the difference between you winning a championship or not. So this draft, very underrated. The draft's tomorrow and Thursday. Kris, I appreciate you joining me for this mock draft. Hopefully we get you back on and talk about, who the Knicks select, who they don't take.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone in the chat for joining us for this live mock draft with me and Kris. Appreciate everyone again for all the love. The draft's tomorrow. Let us know. Hit me up on X or whatever. And I'm excited. So on that note, be well, be safe, take care. Peace out, guys.
Thanks for having me on.